Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility is 23 years old now, and we are the oldest, largest socially responsible business organization in the country, if not in the world. And I'm honored to be the executive director for the past few years. My question for you tonight is whether you engage in public policy. Because if not, you must be thinking that someone else knows better than you about what is good for your business. And if not, you're allowing others to claim that they are the voice of business. At least in Vermont in the past, we have found that there are lots of folks who think they know what is good for your business or not good for your business. For example, healthcare reform. Possibly no way could that be good for business because it's just not going to work. We hear that a lot. We hear that taxes can never be good for business. Never. Even if the taxes might incent behavior that can maybe help with climate change or raise funds to allow us to invest in really important critical infrastructure. Taxes are never good for business. At least that's what we hear. There are lots of other things that are known to just be bad for business, like regulation. Regulation can never be good for business. Planning just takes too darn long and it slows up projects, so planning's not good for business. And really, if government just got out of the way, everything they say would just all be well. So it seems often that everyone out there seems to know what your position is on things. The reporters, the politicians, the bureaucrats, other business people. And so what I want to say is, if you don't speak out, someone is going to be speaking for you. And we will never achieve the goals that we have to create a vibrant and sustainable economy. We at VBSR are driven in our work to not let others speak about what is best for our 1,000 plus businesses. So our member businesses speak up, and they speak out, and we raise our voices in support of things that we think will create a better future. Things like more renewable energy, more investment in energy efficiency, universal access to affordable, quality health care, good pay, equal pay, good benefits, flexible work time. We need to support our people and our families. Things like GMO labeling and quality early childhood education and vibrant downtowns and clean water. Because if we are not all standing behind the governor and speaking into his ear, someone else will be. And then the inevitable soundbite will not be speaking for you. So we suggest you hold your legislators accountable, that you stand up and speak out, not in spite of because you're a business person, but because you are a business person. You need to talk policy in your networks and write letters to the editor and call into radio shows and invite politicians in to see the good work you're doing. Not just when you're asking for something, but just to see just all the contributions you're making. You need to be involved and you need to be heard because the success of your work and the strength of our communities depend upon it. You are the ones creating the jobs. You are the ones supporting your community. You have the power. We say get involved because you are important and you are influential, and don't waste that power. So that's my few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. around lobbying, because in a sense what you're talking about is progressive lobbying as opposed to regressive lobbying. So most, especially in America, everyone talks about fossil fuel lobby and other lobbies that business is all about making sure regulation doesn't happen and about stopping things from happening. And individual companies might talk about how we need to change, and then their trade associations are actually always slamming the door. So I mean, what are the ways that progressive businesses, because often they don't come together in the same way. Those who want to stop things happening often have a stronger power base, almost a more direct line to create change. For those who actually want to encourage change, I mean, you talk about a few ways about how to go about it, but what's the essence? How do you actually have the power and bring together the forces for progressive change?
But I think the founders of VBSR got together for that very reason, because they felt that the typical voice of business was not speaking for them. And they wanted to be heard. So they got together and they were like, let's be heard, let's raise our voices. I think a lot of times businesses feel a little funky if, what they think is right, like, hey, that carbon tax sounds okay to me, but they're at a meeting, in their community with 20 other businesses that say, any new tax, I'm just going to get up and leave the state. And so you got to seek each other out, you got to get together, and you need to network around issues, because I'll tell you, legislators, when you say, I've got 5 jobs that, and these, I'm creating jobs, I'm creating wealth in my community, you have power, you have influence, and you will be listened to. So I think it's just really about networking with like-minded business people and, talking it up.
And what's the most effective way? Because, I mean, what you put up there in terms of, call your radio show, write a letter, call your legislature. I mean, in a sense, when I think of those companies that are behind the scenes pumping billions of dollars in to stop things, and then you say, oh, well, phone the local radio show. I mean, it doesn't feel as though that is, enough to sort of really, count. I mean, so I'm just wondering, is there anything more you really should be doing? Are you restricted by, is it about lack of funds? Is it about lack of organisation? What would allow you to really step up?
Well, I think it depends on where you are. In Vermont, your strategies and your tactics might be very different than in other parts of the state, in other states. Or the American Sustainable Business Council is doing some wonderful work in bringing folks like VBSR together in different states to you got to play the game. You got to get down to DC. You got to lobby. You got to spend money, and you got to know the rules of the game. So I don't think the tactics and the strategies are any different than any other business group that's lobbying for a tax exemption or trying to kill a tax or carbon work or whatever. But I think the strategies and the tactics are not, there's no new idea there either. It's just get in the game, play the game, and don't hide. Just because it wasn't the usual business voice doesn't mean it's not legitimate and important. And,
okay. And just finally, within Vermont, what would you say is your biggest success and what's your biggest failure?
Well, of course, the B Corp legislation. We've had some great success when we've brought people together who don't normally get together, or we've gone outside of the realm. Like we were kind of part of the Farm to Plate legislation, where we really got the Economic Development Committee to realize that this wasn't just an ag bill, that this was an economic development bill, and it was going to bring jobs and wealth to the community. So I think when you get outside of the usual suspects and you start making alliances with folks you don't usually work with, I think that's a great strategy that we've been able to be successful in. Our greatest failures. I'm trying to think about failures. We only go for wins.
I know, but I'm an English journalist.
We've had bills, we lose on bills that, get vetoed by the governor. We've yet to been able to get a bill through on thermal efficiency. I think the heavy lifting is often when you need to raise money to make investments that are longer term. We don't do well with our messaging and our influence when we're like, the thermal efficiency bill, we had data. It was like, you spend $1 now, you're going to save 5 or 6 down the line. and we just couldn't get people engaged in that longer term thinking. So I think some of the frame around these making investments now that will serve us well, whether it's in early childhood education, whether it's in thermal efficiency, that kind of longer term thinking is just really hard to penetrate the annual budget cycle.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.